Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Such a pleasure to have you here with us today. Maybe we could just kick off with a brief intro. I mean, I guess lots of people will already be very familiar with Blue Lights, but some people might be coming to it fresh. Maybe you could just set the scene. What's the show all about?
So essentially, Blue Lights is a police procedural drama which follows three rookie recruits, and they're in the first season and their early stages of joining a police force. And come the new second season, we kind of revisit them a year on, and it's about the sort of everyday trials and tribulations that they have to go through, as a police officer.
And I guess it's fair to say there are a lot of police dramas out there, but there does seem to be something about the show that's really connected with audiences. Whether it's the kind of authenticity that's brought to it, the fact that we're following these rookies makes it a lot more accessible, and I guess just the background of the writers, just being so familiar with Belfast and really threading through, how much of a real place there is represented. When you first read the script, what made you want to jump on board?
Yeah, like you said, there's so many police dramas, but I think the thing that makes this stick out is that it's very much about the individuals and the characters. That's what really drew me to it. That's what really made it stand out to me. And also, I think what we just saw on the little teaser of season 2 there, you get a real sense of the city of Belfast, and that's such a character in itself. Maybe a lot of dramas feel placeless intentionally to try and make people feel like they're very accessible, but actually making the show so much about the place really lets you in.
Were you already binge watching the first season? Is it hard kind of joining as a new character? Because I guess all the other actors have a bit of a shorthand with each other, or was it just easy peasy, could dive straight in?
It was great. No, sometimes there is a bit of a thing of joining something and feeling like an outsider for a while, but everyone is so friendly, and the Irish scene is so small as well that I've known Des for years. It was actually Des who texted me about the part, saying there's this part in season 2 coming up, you should get in for it. So thanks, Des.
And I guess maybe you could just introduce your characters a bit, where we find them at the beginning of season 2 and how they sort of fit into the big jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, so I play Shane Bradley. He's been brought in by Des's character, Murray Canning, to assist in the work on the ground. Shane's on the way to intelligence policing. He has ambitions to go higher up the ladder, but so this is a bit of a stopgap for a while to lend Murray a hand and also getting his good books to try and climb up.
And there's a certain dynamic, isn't there? I mean, we've seen in that first episode, you're a bit more experienced and, not necessarily friction, but you're bringing something different. And the fact that you're kind of working also with, as another part of the team, does that kind of bring another layer to how you're interacting with the other officers and stuff?
Yeah, I suppose we're introduced to the characters in season 1 as rookies, so that's kind of what you're used to looking at the new characters being. So Shane coming in as someone who's been around the block a little bit and knows his way around is kind of a new energy for not only that unit, but also the show and the viewers.
And it looks like it's going to be quite a bit of a storyline, maybe with you and Annie. We having a bit of fun playing all that with Catherine? I know you already got a selfie and a compliment on your first groupie.
Working with Catherine was great. Declan and Adam have created a great dynamic between Shane and Annie, because we see Annie in season 1 is quite adventurous and quite curious and that, and herself and Shane are well matched.
Coming to you, what can you tell us about where we find Murray in the second season and his role in the proceedings?
So second season, Murray is with the PCTF, the Paramilitary Crime Task Force, and he has essentially been tasked with getting to the bottom of an increasing drug problem in the city centre, which they believe is linked to paramilitary groups. And he has actually single-handedly handpicked Shane to come in and kind of help him do that job.
And one of the things we were just talking about earlier, I mean, it's got this incredible tone and rhythm to it. And I guess, it's capturing some of the reality of what it's like working in the force, where you can go from something that's so intense and traumatic, and the next minute it's, having your lunch and having a bit of banter back at the station. How do you find shooting all of that? What were some of the highs and lows of being on set?
Well, as you kind of touched upon slightly earlier, it's so wonderful, to have the confidence in Adam and Declan, coming from a journalistic background and doing such extensive research. You can really rely on how realistic it's going to be. And as you said, 1 minute, you can be top of the world, and then the next moment, something disastrous really happens. So as a performer, it's really good to explore that, and it's really exciting.
Did you have a favourite scene or one that you found difficult, intense?
Myself and Frank here, Murray Canning and Shane have some really fun moments later on in the season, which we're excited for everyone to see.
I can't say anything about what my favourite scene is, but as we've talked about, Shane has a bit of a different way of policing, and that kind of snowballs a little bit. And there's a kind of a sequence in episode 4, I think it is, and that was really, really enjoyable to do all of that. So you'll see.
And the other thing we were mentioning there earlier is, the sort of the impact of the show. So of course it's hooking people in, and it's entertainment because people feel like they can relate to the characters. I guess taking that one step further, it's also humanising the role of a police officer and giving people a completely different perspective, whether that's in Belfast or whether that's elsewhere. And it does feel like that is quite an important role for TV sometimes in that respect.
I learned so much about the PSNI myself from working on the show. I didn't know that so many of the officers have transitioned from different careers. Like, we see the character Grace was a social worker and is now a police officer, and I guess that really informs her police work. And some of the officers we spoke to, they joined the police when they were in their 40s and that. So I kind of thought, everyone just joins in their 20s and trains and follows the same path, but everyone comes to it in a very individual and unique way, which I think is really great because it informs more kind of rounded police work, I suppose.
And did you have a chance to speak to many police officers, maybe get a bit of background research, kind of get immersed in it?
We had a little crash course before we started, which was great, and to kind of cover the basics. And then we had a police advisor on set all the time, which was really invaluable. His name was JD, and he was really, really helpful because you need that kind of support as an actor, and just very subtle things. He would tell us even just how you'd enter a room or how you'd be standing if you're having this type of conversation, or very, very small things, but just things that help detail the show to give it a more authentic feel.
Yeah, I spoke to a couple of detectives, and I know in the first season there were some visits to police stations and whatnot, but as Frank said with JD, particularly for Murray in a sort of a more diplomatic position, I really underestimated just the sort of bureaucracy and how multi-layered policing is, particularly in higher levels of policing, and how every decision trickles down and has such a massive impact. So that was a real insight for me. And as we already mentioned, with Declan and Adam, really focusing on a character-driven story, I think this series allows for the audience, very often you associate the police with kind of just a uniform and it's quite faceless. Whereas with this, it really humanises them, and you get to see, what daily life might be like as a police officer.
I guess, again, not to put sort of too fine a point on it, because first and foremost it is a TV show, but I think we brought it up, is everything just fucked? Like, we are living through this time, which does feel like everything's crumbling around us. And, when you get into the nitty gritty of that, the fact that a lot of social services, whether it's mental health or other sort of types of support, just aren't there. And I guess it's the police that end up kind of seeing the outcome of that, or the symptoms of that, and having to pick up the pieces, which does feel like it's an underlying message that comes out through the show.
Yeah, I think it's so wonderfully done that the police force is so intrinsically woven, through every fragment of society. And I think already in the first episode there, you saw, the mental health provisions aren't there. There's problems with drug addiction. In Belfast specifically, there's problems with paramilitaries, and the police, are involved throughout every aspect of that. So it's such a wide-ranging, difficult job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess what the show touches on as well, as Des said, is it's, maybe you grow up with an idea that the police are there to stop the bad guys, but they're there to help everyone, really. And whether that's helping, in episode 1 we see that character of Brendan who is waiting for a mental health assessment and things like that they're there to support the community rather than stop, just police very forcefully or something.
And I think maybe as well, because the backdrop of Belfast can be, you could do it very wrong. The fact that the creators are from that place and they've done everything with such nuance, and they're dealing, with little bits of the history and little bits of the reality of what it's like there in such a accurate way. You don't really see Belfast represented, perhaps, in many different shows. So do you think that's also something that's really important about it?
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a lot of portrayals of Belfast which delve into the very traumatic history and of the Troubles and all of that. What's different about Blue Lights is that they're, again, just focusing on individuals and everything. And while it's not focusing on that, that is very prescient in living in Belfast, so you can't deny it either. But I think they come to it in a really organic way, like how you see in the character of Happy, or what you'll see in Jen's storyline that's coming up. It's a much more kind of natural way of going into it.
And I guess kind of actually making people want to go there and visit, rather than focusing just on the dark. I think one of the writers was saying, it's these really sort of dark situations, but somehow out of that comes this hope and optimism and sort of levity unexpectedly. So maybe that's also kind of a great thing to celebrate about the city.
It's a brilliant city. I loved living there while I was shooting it, and I think they get across what brilliant fun it is, how amazing the people are, and it's an optimistic show. Yeah, like a lot of dark things happen in it, but I think the message to take away from the show is that it's important to stay optimistic in that kind of adversity.
And third and fourth season already promised. So how does that feel? Do you already know where it's going to go next? And that's, that must feel like quite a treat. We don't always get that with these sorts of TV shows.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. Sure, it doesn't happen very often, but what a vote of confidence, from the BBC and the viewers, to instill that confidence in Declan and Adam and the entire team. So it's extraordinarily exciting. Who knows what stories are there to tell, but there's so much that the city has to offer in these characters. So I think everyone's just really, really excited and delighted, obviously, that there'll be more.
And have you both got other roles in the pipeline, other things we can see you in next, or are you just focusing on this one for now?
Yeah, there's, I can't say what's coming out, but there'll be things coming out soon. Yeah.
Something
Desmond.
similar.
Oh, yeah.
Something similar.
What about you?
I wish. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with me, and I really can't wait for everyone to get stuck into season 2 of Blue Lights. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was great.
Cheers.
Thank you.